What's up, guys, and welcome to the Bearded Jeeper podcast. On this episode of the podcast, episode 5, you're going to be listening to me, and only me. This is a solo episode. I talk about how I got started into Jeeps, some of my first Jeeps, some welding, and more. Alright, what's up, guys? Bearded Jeeper here, and you're listening to episode 5 of the Bearded Jeeper podcast. This is actually going to be a solo episode. I'll bring back more interview episodes later on. Hopefully next week we'll have a nice interview. A lot of the people I reached out to have busy schedule, busy lives, especially with everything going on. So I haven't been able to book anyone to be on the podcast this week. And I was kind of bummed, kind of thought I wasn't going to get something uploaded and posted. But I figured, why not give it a shot and just try to work through this on my own, see if I can make a solo episode, see how it sounds, and I don't know, just talk about Jeep things. So I thought first off, I kind of wanted to introduce myself to those who may not know me, know what I do, who I am, just kind of like a little background of the Bearded Jeeper. And so I first started Jeeps when I was pretty young. When I was going to learn to get my license, I actually had my parents had, I believe it was a 89 Jeep Cherokee. It was silver. The thing was completely, it was rusted. It wasn't a good Jeep. It wasn't in good shape, but it at least allowed me to tinker on something. In driver's ed, I actually drove a Jeep Wrangler TJ, I'm not sure what year it was, but I learned how to drive a standard on a Jeep, and was a good thing because my first actual vehicle ended up being a Volkswagen Jetta. It was, I don't remember the year, but it was one of those boxy kind of red looking, it was one of those red boxy Jettas. I actually had a few issues with that, electrical issues. I got it for $500. Just needed a new clutch. My dad helped me put in the clutch and got it running. It ran fine, except the dash. Yeah, it started to catch on fire. Me and my buddy were in it, and all of a sudden the dash just started smoking like crazy. It was unbelievable. And he actually stayed in the vehicle and started to pat it down and try to get it to go out. And we did get it to go out, so the car didn't go up in flames, thankfully. But he actually, we drove to the police station after and asked to have an ambulance meet us there, just because he inhaled a lot of smoke and it wasn't good. He ended up being fine. Everything was good. But it was just kind of like, I need a new car. And I had a few other cars. I had a Beretta for a little bit, and then I had the Cherokee. I was driving the Cherokee for my parents, but it just really needed a lot of work. And then I was working at Ocean State Job Lot at the time, actually, and one of my friends there, was it Ocean State Job Lot? Maybe it was McDonald's, one of the two there. But I was working, and someone knew I was starting to get into Jeeps, really like Jeeps, and they said, "Hey, I have a Cherokee you can have. It doesn't run, whatever." So I went and I looked at it, and it was actually a Grand Cherokee, 1996 Grand Cherokee, and this Jeep was in pretty good shape. It was that dark kind of forest green color. So I went, looked at it, and I thought, there's no power. So I went, grabbed a new battery, threw it in, it started. And just like that, I got a free Grand Cherokee, just had to put a battery in it. Well, once I got it home, I started looking at it. It seemed to be fairly decent, but I tried to push it right into 4-wheel drive because I knew I was going to take this thing on the trails. This thing wouldn't shift into 4-wheel drive. I couldn't figure it out. And then I looked and I saw one of the motor mounts had broken off of, I believe it was the passenger side, and it just kind of shifted the whole engine down just a little bit. So when the engine shifted down, it kind of tweaked the cables and stuff so it wouldn't shift into four-wheel drive. Well, I just replaced the motor mount, easy enough, brought everything back. It shifted into four-wheel drive, no problem. Even though I know a lot of those old four-wheel drive, the levers just stick and you almost had to stand on top of it, but it shifted into four-wheel drive. The four-wheel drive worked and it worked well. Now, this Grand Cherokee, it wasn't the biggest and baddest, but this is back when like 33s and 35s were considered big tires, long before 37s and 40s kind of became the standard that they are now. And even 37s are starting to become kind of small, I think. But I put a used set of, my buddy had some 31, I believe they were MTRs, the Goodyear MTRs. But I threw those on. They barely fit. Had to cut some of the plastic bits off, and then it just looked pretty good. But I didn't have a lift on it, so I still rubbed a little bit. I ended up getting a 2-inch budget boost lift. It was just like those hockey pucks that you throw under the coils, and some longer shocks, and that was good. But I just had the bug for more. I wanted to do more, and that's what led me to get a 4.5-inch kit. I kind of pieced it together back on the forum days. There was a bunch of people on there. There was a guy named Kolak. I think that's what he went by. But he helped me piece together a decent kit. I think I had Old Man Emu shocks, and I don't remember what the springs were, but everything seemed to work well together. And then I just wheeled it. I had fun. I joined a Jeeping off-road club called Twin State Jeeps and Things. I don't even think that is an organization anymore, unfortunately. But we wheeled quite a bit, and I really got my first kind of introduction into wheeling and what it was like wheeling. So it was a lot of fun, and it was just something to play around with and experiment with. And I really wanted to do more of those. So that's when I went up to a 4.5-inch kit, like I said. And then I wanted to go even better, and I wanted to go long arms. So I ended up buying the Iron Rock Off-Road front long arm upgrade for the ZJ. And this long arm kit was awesome. But I didn't get a chance to install it because at the time I went and looked and got another ZJ because I wanted to swap a V8 into this one because the power just wasn't there, and it seemed like the engine was kind of getting to the final stages where it wanted to die. But then I just kind of didn't have time. I was starting to work quite a bit, and I ended up selling both Jeeps, and I got out of Jeeps for a little bit. I bought a Mazda, a brand spanking new, off the lot Mazda GT, like fully decked out, and that was fun to drive for a while, but I really missed my Jeep. So that's when I ended up picking up the my 2010 Jeep Wrangler that my wife actually named Mudzilla after she went on the trails with me once. She will not go with me on the trails again. She just doesn't like to. Not her thing, not her cup of tea. So I just go on the trails. That's my thing now. But she was the one who named the Jeep Mudzilla. And I've done whole lots more than I can ever imagine with that Jeep, even in its stock form. I didn't have it in stock form too long, though, because I lifted it not too long after I got it. But it's just been a really fun rig, and it's got me back into wheeling and doing a lot of stuff. And now I'm building a Cherokee, kind of going back to the roots. It's a 1999 Cherokee, but I'm going big. It's kind of my first big fabrication project, if you will. It's getting 1-ton axles. It's getting uh, 40-inch tires. This thing is going to be built. I'm going to try to put a JK Rubicon transfer case in it. I've kind of heard some things that it will work, it won't work. So I just got one. I got a hell of a deal on it, and I'm going to go for it. Why not? I figure it's worth a shot at least. So I got that, and now this whole Corona thing has just got me. I haven't had a whole lot of time to work on the Jeep. I've been working like nonstop here, and I really need to get power out to my garage. That's my biggest thing right now is I'm welding on frame stiffeners on the Cherokee, but I just every time I go to weld, the breaker just trips, and like I just get frustrated and throw it down and walk away. I have the fronts all welded on. I'm working on one side on the mids, and then I got to do the other side, then the rears. Then I can finally drag that rear axle in and start mocking that up. I got a lot of the parts that I need. I just need to actually start welding and getting more done on it. But the welding thing, I just need power to the garage. It's really frustrating because I want to weld more so I can learn more. This is my first real fabrication project, so kind of taking it slow as well. I don't want to screw up and just have this Jeep that is useless. So I want to take my time, figure things out, and that's how I learn is by doing. I'm very, very hands-on learner. I can't learn just by sitting there and uh, reading something, especially. I'm a very visual learner, and that's how I learn. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just the way it is. So I've been itching to work more on the Cherokee. I've been trying to do more on the JK as well, but it's just time. Time is I go into work. Lately I've been going in at 4 in the morning, working till 2 or later, and still trying to do some YouTube videos and stuff. And I just feels like I run out of time lately. But I really want to get back into doing some more wheeling. I haven't done a whole lot of wheeling yet this season. It's just I I don't know. It's been one thing after another. I got some new bead locks, some Battleborn bead locks. They're awesome. If you haven't checked them out, it's probably the best budget friendly bead lock you can get out there. I think they're the cheapest bead lock on the market right now, and they work amazing. I really want to get those out in the woods and really test them out. I've seen them on a bunch of rigs. It's a really cool company. They're veteran owned. I'm not sponsored or anything, but if you're looking to get some bead locks, they're definitely worth checking out. And I I got them and I painted the rings, and they look amazing. If you haven't seen them, go check out my Instagram. I'm the bearded Jeeper on Instagram, but it's the underscore bearded underscore Jeeper. Just because the bearded Jeeper was already taken when I went to try to grab that on Instagram, of course. Um, if you haven't, check out my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/the bearded Jeeper. I try to make different types of wheeling videos. They're not just your average, boring, shaky, one stationary camera. I'm trying to make more cinematic videos. Just I know cinematic and cinematography is kind of a cliche word, and it just kind of seems to everyone's using it in everything nowadays. But I like making better quality Jeep videos, and I'm trying to improve and progress on. I actually just got this new camera that I'm recording on because I put all these podcasts on YouTube as well. So you guys can watch if you're more watching instead of listening. But this new camera I got is the Canon M50. For those of you who are into cameras, this is a mirrorless camera. I really enjoy it so far. It has 4K. You lose the autofocus mode in 4K, so you kind of have to manually focus. But I'm okay with doing a little bit of that, but it does crop in quite a bit. So a lot of learning on this camera. I've filmed a few things, but I really want to film a wheeling video. I haven't had a chance to yet. It just seems like every weekend that I want to, something comes up. And I've also been doing a lot of running lately. I've done a couple of half marathons now. I've done fairly well, and I was training for my first full marathon. But of course, my marathon got canceled. Thanks, Corona. It just seems like everything's getting canceled or postponed or changed. And I was going to go to Crawling for Cops this past weekend in Pennsylvania, but I couldn't go because if you leave New England, then you have to quarantine for 14 days when you come back. And I don't want to miss 14 days of work. I do have the vacation time, but I'd rather not use it and get paid out for it at the end of the year if I can. A little extra Jeep spending money that way. So I've just been doing a lot of work and a lot of running, and hopefully we get to do more Jeep things here. I think 2021 is going to be a big year, hopefully, as long as Corona kind of settles down and nothing else goes wrong in the world. It seems like I've seen all those memes lately. It's like a giant game of Jumanji. And yeah, I'm hoping the goal of this year was really to have the Cherokee sitting on axles, like sitting on its own weight. Even if the everything's not dialed in, I just want to be able to say that the axles are underneath it. Now that's going to take a lot more effort on my part, and I got to run some wire. I need a 220 line for sure to start welding on some of those parts on the axles. I just got to get the time to actually run the wires from my fuse panel all the way in my basement, or from fuse panel, from my circuit box thing there. Words. But I have to run wires all the way to one end of the house, dig a trench underground, and run it to my basement, or run it to my garage. So it's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but I think it's going to be worth it in the end. I need power out there. I'm probably going to run a 220 line and a couple 110 lines. Just even if I don't hook everything up at once, just have those lines run and dug and buried in the ground so I can have them if I need them. Trying to do some research because I've never wired a 220 line. I just want to make sure I do this right and do it strong enough. So I think I need at least 8 gauge wire to be the best. I could go lower, but I don't want to spend millions of dollars just on cable. I know it gets pretty expensive, but I do want to do it right. And I think 8 gauge is going to be thick enough where I can run my welder and everything should be all right. But I'm willing to take input from you guys. So hit me up if you guys know more than me, obviously. If you're an electrician, if you know what I should be using, but I think 8 gauge should be all right. And I'm thinking a 50 amp breaker from what I've heard. I guess my welder, because it's kind of the newer style, I'm not too familiar with it. But I guess it can run on a 30 amp, which is like what my dryer runs on. So I think possibly for the meantime, I might be able to get away with running a small extension cord from my dryer circuit, which is on the corner of my house already, and put that into the garage and at least get a little bit of welding done. But I'm not 100% sure. I got to really look into that more and test that out. But I think I'm going to do a 50 amp breaker to be able to handle anything in the future that I want to do really heavy welding. I'm not going to have to worry about it popping every 5 minutes like it does now. Right now, I'm only using 110 and it's still popping. I changed some things around. I put a GFI outlet on the outside and it's only a 20 amp and that's popping. So I wonder if I could get away with shutting everything off on the line. And I think they make bigger GFI outlets, bigger than the 20 amp, but I'm not sure. A lot of this is new to me. I'm learning, and I just don't want to screw anything up because electrical can cause fires and damage. So I can't afford to have an electrician come and do it. But I do want to do my research and do my best at home DIY kind of stuff. And hopefully learn. And then if someone else asks me, I'll have a little bit of knowledge in what I'm doing. So I think you've probably heard me ramble on long enough for episode 5 of the Bearded Jeeper podcast here. I just want to say I really appreciate everyone who has listened, subscribed, and tuned in to the podcast. This is episode 5. There's plenty more to come. I'm not going to stop. If you want to be a guest, shoot me an email at thebeardedjeeper@gmail.com. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to have anyone on, any companies that want to talk Jeep stuff, welding stuff, fabrication stuff, whatever. I'm not opposed to any of it. I just want to have an interesting podcast that people like to listen to and something I would listen to as well. But I think I'm going to call it here. I got to go do some stuff around the house before it gets too much later. And I have to go to bed early. I'm an old man. I have to be up early. Being to work at 4 means I have to wake up at like 2:30 in the morning. So it's real fun. But that's going to be it, guys. Thanks for listening to the Bearded Jeeper podcast. Make sure you leave a review and share this with your friends. And let me know how I did with this solo podcast. It's been a kind of weird I feel like I'm rambling, talking too much, too fast. But if you enjoyed this podcast, let me know. And maybe I'll throw a solo one in there every now and then. And we'll see how it goes. So thanks for listening, guys. And as always, stay bearded, stay jeeping. I'm out.